Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany May. Today, I will be discussing maltreated youth and delinquency. This topic is something that I feel is very important. Studying maltreatment and its link to juvenile delinquency is something that I connect with on a personal level. My family has a long history of arrest, but one person's arrest really hits home hardest. I have a cousin who I see as a little brother who began to participate in delinquent behaviors around the age of 13 and had his first arrest at only 14 years old. Before all of this began, I found myself worried that he would turn to delinquency based on his home life. His father was sent to prison for 15 years when he was only 2 years old. His uncle, who was also my cousin, was in and out of jail majority of his life, so there wasn't a very positive role model in his life to help show him right from wrong. His mother had to spend most of her time at work, so the only person that was truly active and invested in making sure that he didn't go down the wrong path was my mother, his great aunt. My mother actually tried to adopt my cousin, but his mother would not allow it. Today, my little cousin is 19 years old and is unfortunately in jail. This should not be surprising given his circumstances. Growing up, living with his mother, he was not supervised as much as he should have been and ended up hanging with the wrong crowd. The cycle of maltreatment and delinquency is very real. Juveniles make the choice of committing delinquent crimes, but their living situations are not their fault. Their environment is toxic and they do not have the means to get out on their own. Some children are fortunate enough to have someone in their life who cares enough about their well-being to take them out of the toxic environment, even if it is only temporary, such as coaches, teachers, or maybe even someone, in church. Approaches such as functional family therapy and parenting courses will not avoid early maltreatment like we would want, but it could help eliminate the reoccurrences of delinquency and possibly deter younger siblings from entering into the criminal justice system. We will look at current approaches that are being used, statistics from past research, and finally, my recommendations. All right, let's jump right in. Willfully ignoring the link between childhood maltreatment and juvenile delinquency is very irresponsible. 2.4 million juveniles were arrested in 2000. Of those 2.4 million, 99,000 had committed a violent crime. These violent crimes include murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. Having a history of child maltreatment has been seen to increase the risk of delinquency in adolescence and young adulthood. Maltreated children will have a 47% higher chance of delinquent behavior. Bender found that possible risk factors for delinquent behavior include running away from home, substance abuse, negative peer relationships, mental health, and poor academics in school. Although having had experienced maltreatment will raise the risk of delinquency, this does not mean that all children who have been maltreated will turn to delinquency. In 2009, police have arrested about 1.9 million youth. There are also 3 million cases of neglect and abuse reported yearly. Early intervention is best to deter delinquent behaviors. If early intervention does not occur, 38% of maltreated youth have a chance of committing violent crimes in the future. Let's take a look at the statistics from previous research. Between 9 and 50% of youth introduced to the child welfare system have a strong chance of delinquent behavior. 38% of youth who have been neglected and or abused have a higher chance than those who have not to turn to a life of criminal behavior. 1.9 million youth had been arrested in 2009. 28% of children had been maltreated. 2.9 million children had a child maltreatment case in 1999. These statistics should be startling. It would be very irresponsible to sweep the issue of maltreatment and juvenile delinquency under the rug. By leaving this problem unanswered, it could lead to more victims than there would have been if only someone would have intervened. New action and new interventions must be taken in order to provide these children with a healthy adult life. Now, there are 4 major forms of maltreatment that I would like to discuss with you all. They are physical and emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect. It has been found that a parent, caregiver, or guardian is often the one who commits maltreatment toward children because of the close relationship. Physical abuse accounts for 18% of maltreated cases. Physical abuse is defined as any non-accidental harm done to the child where there is physical impairment. This includes, but is not exclusive to, biting, striking, burning, and kicking. Emotional abuse accounts for 8% of maltreated cases. Emotional abuse could be verbal abuse from the parent, caregiver, or guardian to the child, along with mental injury. Sexual abuse accounts for 10% of maltreated cases. Sexual abuse is the act of abusing a child sexually. The Child Welfare Information Gateway found that victims of sexual abuse as a child are more susceptible to rape in their adulthood. The risk of rape in adulthood will increase depending upon the severity of child abuse. Neglect takes up 78% of all child protection reports. 78%. Neglect is when the parent or guardian fails to provide the child with the proper safety, medical attention, shelter, food, or supervision. 50% of youth who have been maltreated have had a record of arrests. From the statistics, it is not appropriate to think that every child that has been maltreated will absolutely turn towards a life of delinquency. Resilience will play a huge part in determining if a maltreated child will turn towards delinquency. Additionally, abandonment is a part of maltreatment. Abandonment is categorized as a parent leaving the child for long periods of time and the parent's location is unknown. Now we are going to discuss the approaches that are currently put in place. There have been many intervention methods that have been used to help youth who have been maltreated. The Belsky model looks at the sociological and physiological development of the parenting, meaning the type of parenting that one has been made the main focus of the Belsky model approach. Once practitioners have found the reason why maltreatment occurred, such as drug use, mental illness, unstable environment, practitioners are then able to form services just for the needs of that individual family. A second approach that has been used is the eco-developmental framework. This framework is used to observe whether the incorporation of child welfare services would lessen the relationship between maltreatment and delinquency. As we know, when the child welfare system intervenes, it lowers the chance of that child being involved in delinquency in the adolescence and adulthood. With intervention, the cycle of maltreatment could be prevented, and the child could be provided with a better, healthier living arrangement if it is found to be absolutely necessary. The resilience-based framework is the third approach. This approach looks at promotive factors and youth risk factors to understand how some youth will adapt to their circumstances and how others are not able to. This is why resiliency plays a huge factor in determining juvenile delinquency. It has been found that those who have a chance of reducing the risk of delinquency have the characteristics of having a strong support system, being a female, having a good bond with their family or close relatives, having strong ties within their school, is well adjusted in their temperament, has spiritual values, and is pro-social. My first recommendation would be parenting courses. Parenting courses have been found to be an effective prevention tool in reducing youth delinquency for high-risk youth. A solution that would be effective in helping the high rates of delinquent youth and recidivism rates would be to have policymakers implement a standard procedure where parents of children within the juvenile system complete parenting courses. Parents who have maltreated children most likely were subjected to some form of maltreatment themselves as a child. These courses will allow for those parents to find appropriate tools to raise their child in a healthy environment and also a healthy emotional environment. 2/3 of children have seen improvement. Recidivism rates could be dramatically lowered if parenting courses are implemented. Topics for this parenting course will include effective disciplinary methods. It will show videos highlighting effective and ineffective parenting. Parents within the course will be able to practice lectures in which they will give their children, and these parenting courses will also allow for the monitoring of the parents' and child's behavior. These courses will last for 6 to 15 sessions that will be 1 hour to an hour and a half. My second recommendation would be functional family therapy. Functional family therapy is a family-based intervention treatment that allows for the child to avoid being taken out of their home and community and being placed into a more toxic environment, such as a juvenile center. Functional family therapy, or FFT, best treats youth and their families ages 11 to 18 years old who are high and low risk. FFT is also used as a prevention and/or diversion tool for at-risk youth and their families. Parents and the child should all undergo counseling as one. This would be effective because one behavior, the child or the parent, is not the only focus for change. Having a poor relationship with your parent or your family can possibly lead to a higher rate of criminal activity. 12 to 15 family cases will need to be assigned to about 3 to 8 trained FFT therapists. FFT attempts to change dysfunctional behaviors into functional behaviors by using cognitive and behavioral approaches. There are 3 phases of functional family therapy that must be completed. The first phase is engagement and motivation. Through engagement and motivation, therapists do not blame anyone for the behavior of the youth. This phase is done without any confrontation and avoids talk of the child's current misbehaviors. Phase 2 is behavior change. Through behavior change, the current family interaction is changed to new patterns. Change of the relationship can occur in this phase through a list of new treatment techniques. In phase 3, generalization, there will be less contact with therapists, but the goal is to have the behavior change occur down the road. FFT has been found to lower the recidivism rates of status offenders. Furthermore, even though functional family therapy targets youth who are high risk, FFT has been seen to have some effect on the younger siblings as well. Younger siblings have been seen to have less court visits than their older siblings after 3 years. These children did not ask to be victims of maltreatment. Their circumstances ultimately changed their lives for the worse because they became a product of their environment and modeled the behavior that they were raised around. Young adults who were abused as children have a high probability of becoming a juvenile delinquent. Yes, we all make the choice to either commit a crime or follow the rules, but we all have not been a victim of maltreatment as an innocent child. Once again, it would be very irresponsible to ignore the problem of childhood maltreatment. 38% of youth who have been neglected and or abused have a higher chance than those who have not to turn to a life of criminal behavior. About 9 to 50% of youth who have been introduced to the child welfare system have a strong chance of engaging in delinquent behaviors. It will not be an easy task to eliminate maltreatment and consequently eliminate the amount of juvenile delinquent cases, but it will be worth it. New action must be taken to give these children a chance to lead a healthy, well-adapted life as an adult. The change starts with us. Thank you.